Today I'll be talking about my 5 non-negotiables that get me into deals, get me out of them, and also help me to negotiate on those things should they not meet my expectations, or should I need to negotiate a price or allow me to make profits. Because at the end of the day, this is a business and I need to make profits as well as landlords. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm Mikey and welcome to your Airbnb. My 5 non-negotiables. This is my video around my 5 non-negotiables because it has helped me to avoid properties I wouldn't necessarily be interested in, or properties that don't quite tick my boxes, but I'm still interested in them, but not enough to pay full rate, let's say. So yes, let's talk about landlords to start off with. Landlords will be showing their properties and making them available on the open market. And because of that, they will have a measure of profit within that. And that measure of profit can then be taken and allow them to either buy future properties or invest back into that property to refurbish or even extend, add value to then gain some capital growth to allow them to add value on the latter stages of their investment. Remember, property investing is a long-term investment model. It's not the same as your cryptos or anything like that, which is very short, can be long-term gain, but very short in and out transactional trading. Property should be considered over 3, 5 or 10 years. And if you've got the correct understanding and knowledge, you should be able to use those to the best of your ability and then future-proof your business and the business model. For me, property investing is again still long-term, but because it's Airbnb or rental arbitrage or rent-to-rent, it's short-term income cash flow, which can be very high rewarding, more so than your conventional buy-to-let models and flip models that are out there. Both that will need some element of money behind you, 25% deposit, including fees, costs, and then anything else. So just as long as you have the money to cover the 25% deposit, stamp duty and fees, then you can get into those flips and those buy-to-let options. If you don't have that money, then I would say you consider the rental arbitrage model or the short-term rental model that I'm in, because it allows you to not have so much of a cash-rich funding potential behind you, and you could, if you wanted to, use some creative methods to allow you to approach people that you may know or not know to ask you to lend you that money at a return. Landlords will be letting their properties out on the open market, and there will be a measure of profit considered in that. So for instance, if a property is available for £850, and that's what the prices were when I was first investing in Airbnb or rental arbitrage, and that was £800 for the month, and that wasn't including bills, so I would cover all bills. So if you're talking £800 a month, you would probably say that the mortgage would possibly be around, at the time, £450, and then the rest would be considered the landlord's profit to be able to recoup that throughout the year, and they would make between £6,000, £8,000, £9,000 a year calendar, and then out of that would be some of the mortgage, well, majority of the mortgage, and then some of that would be profit left over. What I'm offering is, because you don't necessarily know as a landlord when your next tenant is due to leave, they will give you notice, yes. As their tenancy agreement may come to an end and you are due to renegotiate their rent, they then might decide, this property is not necessarily ticking all the boxes for me anymore. I need to be closer to my work, closer to my children's school, or closer to something else. Or I'm due to leave this area now because I've got a better job somewhere else, so I need to move into that area and then consider where my rent is there. Most landlords won't know that straight away, so the tenant will give their notice and then the tenancy agreement will come to an end, and then that landlord will have to come back into the property, assess if there's any damage, usually wear and tear, not so much damage. But after a guest has been there for 12 months, if they've got a family and they've been using it 365 of the year, there will be an element of degradation and dust wear and tear. So it'll be scuff marks, so need of paint and decorating. Some maintenance problems may have come up in terms of like leaky taps or taps needing to be changed, and then the usual things that things just break and need to be replaced. So that landlord then would take the property back after the tenant has moved, understand what needs to be done, paint and decorating wise, do that at a cost to them, and then also replace anything else at a cost to them. But that whole process might take 30 days. So then for that whole 30 days, they've got £850 that they have, £800 they need to spend for themselves within the rent, and then they have to replace and repair all of the things within that property within that 30-day process. So it could be £800 plus £1,000 for decorating throughout the house. It's going to be more than that, and then it might be a couple of white goods to be replaced. So say another £1,000 for white goods, because it is usually about that for white goods in itself. So you've got £2,800 all in spent for that 30-day process, and then you've got to rent it back out to open market. So you're already down, the landlord is already down £2,800 within only 30 days of that first tenant moving out. And if they do that over 3 years, they can already have 3 turns of tenancy turnovers with the same sort of expenses. Yes, it'll be less or more on the white goods, because you're not going to be replacing brand new white goods every year, but it could be £2,800 the first year, or it could be £2,800 the third year, and then the first year could be only £2,000 or only £1,000. But over that whole period, it could potentially be, if you round it down to £2,000 a month for the first 30 days, it could be £6,000 over 3 years that the landlord has to pay out. That can be a headache to most uninitiated landlords that have accidentally got into this business because they've moved out of a property into another one, and then they've just kept it because it's better to keep it, in their view, than it is to sell it, because they won't recoup the money that they've put into it in terms of initial investment, because this was their residential home for a measure of time. I would come in, offer them my opportunity, which is work with me for that same amount of time, but then mitigate any of the void periods. So completely getting away that £6,000 to £8,400 straight away. So from their view, they're saving that money straight away with working with somebody like me. And that's a very good prospect to a landlord, an accidental landlord, or even a landlord that's very well experienced, because to them that means they've got no pain and no headache, because we deal with all that. We keep the house in show home condition, and then we also keep them the maintenance. So the property should be handed back to them in exactly the same state or better than they're giving it to me. And that just helps in terms of the long and the short of all of this for an owner to know that their property is being looked after. Anything that's outside of our sphere of responsibility in terms of boiler and all that sort of stuff will be raised with them on time and quickly, because we don't want the property to be down time in any shape or form. So therefore it needs to be available to guests 365 of the year, but nominal down periods. So if a boiler needs to be repaired, we would hope that boiler repair would only take a few days to do. And if it does, then we would. And then finally, what are my 5 non-negotiables? My 5 non-negotiables are: has to have a good kitchen, up to date, as clean and pristine as possible. The responsibility to the garden, if there's responsibility to the drive, if there's a drive. My 5 non-negotiables are: bathroom, at least 1. If there's more than 4 bedrooms, I at least need 2 bathrooms, or a bathroom and then a WC downstairs. I would like a drive, and I would like a drive that can accommodate at least 2 to 3 vehicles. To start off with, the boiler needs to be no less than 5 years old, so 5 years or less. It's to be close to either commutable link. So I hope that helps. And again, if it does, drop a comment or a like below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks very much for staying to the end. And as a gift to you, if you look in the bio, there is a link to my 5 non-negotiables, what I look for, a check sheet. So I hope all this helps for now. And I'm Mikey again, and this is your Airbnb.